Hello, everyone, and welcome to our second part of today's Expo Day, the Smart Cities Expo Day. It's super nice to still see so many faces in here. Please, people that are still in the networking area, come here to listen to the next part of our program, which is actually a panel discussion on the topic of open innovation and how does the open innovation approach actually help companies to gain a competitive edge in the market. So without further ado, I would like to announce our panelists to join me on stage. So Sylvia Köhre, she is the Innovation Manager of Viesure Innovation Center. Welcome. Hi, Sylvia.
Hi, nice, Julie.
Nice to see you. Please take a seat. Then Bastian Schäfer. He is the venture architect at Airbus Scale. And Alberto Taha, Chief Innovation Officer of Aena.
Thank you.
So thank you so much for joining me here on stage and for talking with me about this topic. So before we actually start, and before I start asking everyone questions, I would like to maybe talk a bit about open innovation and what it actually means. So obviously the concept of open innovation is relatively new. It has been first coined in the 1990s by a Berkeley professor called Henry Chesbrough. So obviously it has been just 3 decades, or not even, since this concept has emerged. And what does it actually mean? So open innovation is all about opening your corporate walls to the outside world and sharing your knowledge with external partners and vice versa. So it's all about joint collaboration. And this is actually also the bread and butter of what we do here at Plug and Play. So we connect large corporations together with young state-of-the-art startups from all around the world. And this is also what I want to talk about today with all of you. And obviously there are different approaches to open innovation. There are different models of collaboration with external partners. And we have here also today 3 different types of these collaborations. So I'm super excited to hear your opinion on that and what you do at your respective companies. So actually, before we deep dive into that, I would like to ask all of you, what does open innovation mean to you? And we also have this question to the audience. So please take your phones out and scan the QR code on the screen behind us, because we would also like to know your opinion. But maybe we can start with you, Sylvia. What does open innovation mean for you?
Well, open innovation for me means, honestly, to be open for everything, listening to our customers, but also listening and watching other industries, not only the insurance industry. Some of them says, okay, watch your competitors, look outside. But for me, it's important to see what the others are doing, because if it works, for example, for airports, why doesn't it work for insurance companies? So it's really, we are open for also crazy new ideas, and all those crazy ideas maybe come from startups, and therefore it's really important to listen to other people, because the customer is always in the center of our doing, and therefore everybody is somehow a customer or a consumer, and therefore we are really open to everything what comes up, and that's what we are doing.
Perfect. Bastian, what does open innovation mean to you?
Well, usually when we talk about innovation, it's a pretty closed environment we are in. Yeah? We have selected partners and so on. So when we talk open innovation, we talk about open innovation challenges. And on these challenges, a vast amount of different people, whether these are startups or even single innovators or SMEs or even departments from our own organization, can take part in. And you actually don't know what the outcome is. So it's always good So we are actually using open innovation for topics where we do not exactly know what's inside in order to understand and access the material a little bit better.
So you are using open innovation approach in terms of exploring new ideas, new opportunities. Alberto, what do you think?
Yeah, open innovation in a sector like our sector, airport, airlines, ENSP, is a very closed sector. It's very difficult to enter in this sector, and it's very complicated to the startups to deploy in this sector. And what does it mean? It means that if something is running, is working in the normal day of the customer, why it doesn't work in the airport, airline, etc. So for us, an open innovation is a way to approach that the normal things in real life must running and working in the airport. So because we set up in the past a very safety model, and it works, it's very good, but it doesn't advance at the same level of the society. So the society is digital, the society is biometric, the society doesn't need a lot of paper to move, only if you go to the airport, and you need paper, you need to do queues, you have to put in front of a queue, so it's not really connected with the society. And with open innovation, people outside from our sector come here and help us to understand which is the way the society is working. With a short project and proof of concept, we try to understand how it works. And for us, with a project, with an acceleration program, we started to discover this new way to do the things.
Yeah, so I have heard from all of you collaboration. Also, the audience mentioned collaboration. A lot of the times, cooperation, we can see speed, thinking outside of the box. So all of these aspects are very kind of important for the open innovation approach. So thank you for sharing that. And maybe, Alberto, we are actually going to stick with you, and I have a question for you. So you mentioned your accelerator program. It's called Aena Ventures. So can you maybe tell us a bit more about the structure and how did you set up the program?
Yeah, so our unit, so we are part of a unit dependently from the chairman. My boss is Innovation, Sustainability and Customer Experience, was created 2 years ago, 3 months before of the pandemic. We were very, very good moment to start. But our chairman said that the innovation, the way that our relation with the startup should change. We started to do trial, pilot, but we need something structure that let us to go ahead when the pilot finish. So what we do, we have to explain that Aena is a public administration company, so our rules to buy are a little bit different of a private company, so it's a little bit different. But we have a very, very great field to deploy trial because we manage 46 airports in Spain, and we have small airport, really, really small, 500,000 passengers, and also manage Madrid-Barajas with 62 million. We also manage airport abroad. So we decided to structure a program with different steps in which one you are selected to make 6 months of acceleration. You provide one idea to match with one challenge. It's a very open challenge. You also be accelerated during 6 months, and you have a gift of 50,000 euros just for the proof of concept. And later of that, you are in the good position to have a direct contract with our company up to 2 million euros and up to 2 years. Just to continue with the, not acceleration, just with the customization with your product with us. And we are very happy with the results. We received a lot of submission with 254 companies from 33 different countries. And we finally work with 5 different companies, and we are very happy. And I think we are all on the same page because our colleagues from ADR are doing same things, and another airport are doing the same. So this is a very good idea, and we make the same advice to my colleagues from all the airports to do that with the startups because they have a very good ideas. And we are so happy that we are continuing to make the contract, and we also are thinking to launch our second edition. We hope to the end of the year, perhaps the next year, but the second edition will be done.
Well, congratulations for the first successful edition. I'm sure the second one will go as well. But Bastian, you are actually doing something completely different. So Airbus Scale is a venture builder of Airbus. Do you also have any other innovation activities at Airbus that you follow, and what is your approach?
So venture building is one part of Airbus Scale. Airbus Scale was founded basically after the COVID pandemic. So we are existing since 9 months, more or less.
So very recent.
Yeah, very recent. Of course, we had before also activities in the field of innovation, but due to the fact that we had to restructurize Airbus a little bit in this area, we founded Airbus Scale. The expression scale was given by the team to this department because we wanted to create an internal brand with that. And we have, of course, corporate innovation. Like in every big corporate, you need someone who is defining the processes and so on. We have a venture builder where we try to go into adjacent markets with our own knowledge and know-how together with partners. So where Airbus is also a minority shareholder, yeah, and depending on the topic, we are then selecting co-founders for our startups, which is difficult still, yeah, because you always have to align with the strategy of your company. And then, of course, we have startup engagement, which was the former BizLab, where we hosted more than 140 startups in 5 years, approximately. And I'm actually in between the venture builder and the startup engagement. Yeah. For me, it's also not a black and white thinking. It always depends on the use case and on the mission you have. If you want to work with a startup or if you want to build your own venture, sometimes you try to find a different arrangement and mix of that. And of course, we are supporting also other initiatives in Airbus, for example, with open innovation topics to launch their campaigns. At the moment, when I may add this, we have an open innovation campaign together with HeroX, and we are looking at the metaverse. Yeah? Metaverse is a topic which, where everyone is talking about, but we don't know exactly what's inside. Yeah? That's the best point to give a little bit money to innovators and to come up with ideas that may guide us towards the metaverse discussion in this case.
That's super interesting. You actually mentioned that you're looking at adjacent innovation fields with Airbus Scale and now into Metaverse, which is a bit more on the transformational side, so really like Horizon 2, Horizon 3 innovation spaces. So that's maybe already a bit different approach in comparison to Aena Ventures. But Sylvia, so we have heard 2 different collaboration types right now. And Viesure is actually a corporate startup of Wiener Städtische Insurance. So how does that differ in comparison to those 2 collaboration models?
Well, we are a startup. I mean, we are under the head of a very big traditional financial strong company. So it makes it somehow easier for us to work freely, to create ideas. Because on the one hand side, we are on the safe side when it comes to financial terms. We don't, for example, we don't have a sales department. We don't have to sell our products, but we have to sell it to the board. So because it's not selling outside to somebody external, but we have to go to the board and said, okay, we've brought up a new idea. What do you think about it? Yeah, and then they said, okay, let's go, or just forget about it. It doesn't fit, for example, to our strategy. So we are having also the topic that we are a tech company. So we are almost all of us are developers. And we don't have HR department or accounting. So all this administration stuff will be done by our mother company. So we can really focus on innovation, bringing up new ideas. And that's it's a kind of, let's say, a sandbox, yeah, where we can play without the regulatory borders of the insurance company, because, as you know, insurance is a very regulated area here in Austria and also in all other countries, and we are like a little bit outside. Of course, we have to think about when we bring up some new ideas, they have to fit for the insurance company, but we can try it out first. And what we are doing, we look, okay, this is the process, this is the idea, can we do it by ourselves? Or maybe should we collaborate with another startup? And then we're just like going to you to plug and play and said, okay, we're having this and that, a gap within our process chain. And then we said, okay, we need something that fits directly into this gap. And then we collaborate with other startups, like from different, it's not only insurtechs, it's also other companies, for example, providing AI or whatever it is, what we cannot provide, or where we think, okay, it doesn't make sense to build it by ourselves, just collaborate. And I guess then it's also nice for startups to collaborate with us, because we have more or less the same spirit, yeah, we're on the same level. But we're also teaching them how to work together with, let's say, Wiener Städtische, with a big company, because it's always in the back there. Yeah. Yeah. So it's somehow, yeah, it's different, but it really makes fun.
That's great to hear. Well, you have already mentioned a couple of advantages of all these different collaboration models, but can you maybe, all of you, kind of think about the biggest advantage of collaborating with external partners? So what would be the biggest advantage for you, Alberto, for when you are thinking about Aena Ventures and collaborating with startups? What's the biggest advantage?
I start with the big advantages is to open mind to our people. But at the same time, this is the big disadvantages, because as we commented, we are a sector with a people with a long experience. They have to do the same for a long period at the same way. And now there is some guys with a t-shirt saying to my IT director, how is the way to make a chatbot? How it works, the point of interest for the network. What is the good architecture to the information system? And this is very difficult to manage, because it's a different point of view. And how we manage the new way of test, try, make wrong as soon as possible, and test again. And in our sector, this is not well received, because the safe is very important. And I understand in some levels you cannot play with safe, but in another ways, in another part, this is very important to learn. And this is very difficult to introduce a little bit that test with safe is important. This is I think the disadvantage is the friction that you create in your company and how you manage.
Bastian, what do you think about that? What is the biggest advantage in your opinion?
Well, for us, pretty straightforward is that startups eventually have technology solutions that we do not have in our portfolio yet. So, and that's why we want to access them. Although I have to say, to work with startups in the aviation business is super difficult, because of our big industry, because of our product life cycles also, that doesn't allow at any time to implement new innovations. So to find a way to bring a startup to the point where they become a technology provider for Airbus, this is exciting, to get to that point.
To actually start some kind of collaboration with them.
Exactly, yeah. Exactly.
And for you, Sylvia, so when you as a corporate startup then in the end actually collaborate with a startup from outside, how does it look like for you? What's the biggest advantage?
The biggest advantage is, let's say, from the point of view from Wiener Städtische Versicherung. I guess they did a lot of work, they invest in us, and I guess that's the first big advantage, that we are already existing. So it's not that the Wiener Städtische directly has to deal with the startups, so that we are here to deal with the startups. I guess that's the first advantage. And the second one is we are really open and we are fast. We have a reaction time, we can gain speed, and somehow it's really difficult for startups to work with traditional industries because they have a very legacy systems behind there, and we are like fresh and new and agile, yeah, and therefore it makes it easier for them to collaborate directly with us and not going into the traditional industry. So we are a kind of a buffer in between, and we are also allowed to try something out, and it's like if it works fine, then it could be, let's say, we could work as a duplicator, yeah? So if they say, okay, there's a role model, it works with Viesure, and then I said, okay, it works, and then they can go somewhere else and just grow, and we'll learn from each other, and they can learn from us, and we can learn from them, and I guess that's the big advantage of being a corporate startup.
Yeah, definitely. Because if you take a look at a large corporation and a startup, there is an apparent imbalance. Obviously, large corporations have like traditional processes in place, and with a corporate startup like Viesure, you can kind of go around that and work with the startup in a more efficient way.
Exactly.
And maybe we can actually talk about also some disadvantages, because obviously one of the biggest issues of open innovation is sharing the knowledge, sharing the IP and some sensitive data with external partners. And I would be interested in how you actually manage it, Sylvia, at Viesure.
Well, obviously, I mean, we're signing an NDA, so that's the legal basis, I guess, for everybody. We are doing background checks as far as possible, but it's all about, it's risk management in the end, yeah? It's like, of course, we risk the leakage of data or of information, but if we don't take the risk, we don't get any, let's say, input from outside. And all those startups collaborating with us, they know exactly when they give an information to somebody else, we will realize it. And then they will never ever get the chance to work in the insurance industry anymore. Because the sector is very small, everybody talks to each other, more or less. I mean, you know what's going on. So if your competitor comes out with a more or less the same idea, then, okay, it will be over for this startup because nobody will trust them anymore. So they really have a high interest in working with us, and therefore, I mean, it's a question of risk, yeah? But we have to take the risk, otherwise we maybe produce products which nobody has an interest in. So for us, it's like risk management in the end, yeah?
Yeah. Bastian, Alberto, how do you see that in terms of risk when collaborating with external partners?
Maybe I can take this question. I want to take this into a slightly different direction. So what I've experienced is that Airbus is divided in silos, of course. Yeah, they are traditionally grown. We have these ATA chapters, which exist since 200 years, more or less. And so what the mission of most of these silos is to, as you said, to de-risk topics. So they have a long roadmap, they have a strategy, and so on. Really, it's really about de-risking the operations of the company. And now, me as an innovation manager, I come up with a new idea. There's a startup that just popped up somewhere. It's super difficult to make this matchmaking with Airbus then to really change the strategy or the roadmaps of a department. And so I just can give the advice as an innovation manager in a big corporation, you really need to go to those people who try to, who have this risk avoidance mentality, yeah, and find a way together with them to incorporate startups in the end of the day, who are, of course, taking the risk in other areas, for other technologies and so on. So, and you have to make this matchmaking. I just can mention typically the procurement department. Yeah, so they are working with long roadmaps. They are releasing the budgets, yeah, which will then go to the startups, and you have to exactly talk to those people in order to unblock this. Otherwise, you should avoid working with startups if you don't get this done, because the startup will say at a certain point in time, I'm just wasting my time and resources here with Airbus. You have to go to these people who have this risk avoidance and really change their mind.
Yeah. So you're trying to kind of increase the awareness about the importance of innovation, working with startups, collaborating with external partners internally to actually make it easier for startups to work with you in the end.
Story.
Yeah. Yeah. Alberto, do you have maybe something to add? How do you manage risk when you're collaborating with startups?
Risk, I think, is the most common use word in our sector, because risk assessment is something that everything who has been working in airport sector is always done. But I think in open innovation, you can control the risk, because it's a proof of concept that you can control what you want to do. So the risk is when you demonstrate that the proof of concept works. How do you deploy that? How you integrate that solution in a big company with a very long process, very long period? The risk that you have is the startup cannot wait so many times to your process. But I think the risk is to implement the solution that you have here, but as you commented, how you change the structure in your company to deploy, to make this solution part of your procedure. I think that, but in terms of risk that you can control and you can make a risk and assessment, another one.
So you start small, assess the risk with a pilot project or proof of concept, and then you try to deploy in terms of, maybe on a bigger scale. So maybe to summarize and to conclude what we have been discussing here, I would like to ask all of you, what kind of value do you see in the open innovation approach in terms of competitive advantage for your respective companies? Maybe in one sentence, just summarize. We can start with you, Sylvia. What do you think? What value do you see?
Well, I can repeat myself. It's the first big advantage is that Wiener Städtische has set up Viesure. That's the first advantage. And the second advantage is that open innovation is our tool how to work. It's our mindset. We are really customer-centric. We are all is around the customer. And open innovation is the key to find out what the customer wants and to make the customer happy, to achieve customer satisfaction. And so I can say it is that tool that we are using. Otherwise, we won't be that far as we are right now.
Bastian, in terms of when you are thinking in terms of competition, what kind of competitive edge does open innovation represent?
So open innovation challenges, the results of those challenges will give you a big portfolio of opportunities. And when you access this correctly, you as a corporate do not waste your own time and money on topics that doesn't make sense. Because you have a large portfolio of ideas in the end of the day, you can access them all, and then you know in which direction you probably need to go. And that's the big advantage of open innovation in this case.
Alberto, some concluding words from your side?
If I have to sum up, it should be in 3 words. It's think different, learn, because both learn, the startup and the corporate. And one word that I saw that was very voted is collaboration. But that's my collaboration. That's sum up, which is the exit of the target of the goal of this industry. And it's a very specific industry. There's only 2, 3, 4 stakeholders, but it's difficult to make collaboration between us. And I always comment the same. For this sector, you need an aircraft, and you need an airport, one in the beginning and one in the end, or you come back to the first airport. And I think this is not a trip that anyone wants to do. But this, but it's not easy to make collaboration between airlines, airport, aircraft manufacturer, because all of them are so big that sometimes a small company make us to be faster in collaboration. So collaboration.
Perfect. Super cool concluding words. People collaborate with startups, with external partners. Thank you so much, Silvia, Bastian, Alberto. And we can move on to the next part of our program. Thank you so much.
Thank you.